boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm for Classic and welcome to BenchART. So for today what I do have needed is Yakuza 4 Remastered, a game developed by Ryoga Gotoku Studio and ported over to the PC thanks to the Keylock, which is a kind of studio, the Keylock, that made a lot of ports already to the PC. Most of them were also Japanese titles. So they are experienced and they have done a good job with Yakuza 3, and the same can be said about Yakuza 4. And well, the task today for us is to see how it performs on the Intel UHD 620 and check how different it performs from Yakuza 3, for example. And the news is too long, didn't read. It performs mostly the same, but Yakuza 4 it is obviously slightly more demanding, especially because of this starting scenario where you can see tons of screen space reflections, and that makes it more demanding. But still, the Intel GPU can manage it quite well with exactly the same settings that I did use on Yakuza 3, which is essentially using texture quality on high, 4 times anisotropic filtering, use shadows and load distance at the minimum possible. You can use FXAA as anti-aliasing, and that's about it. And obviously lock your game to 30 frames per second, because this game doesn't support any frame skipping. So you either have 30 or you either have 60, and my recommendation it is obviously for you to go 30, because that's the only frame rate that you can actually achieve. And this is the results without recording on this first scenario. So at the low settings, what I got, it was an average of 42, so it was overall an experience above 30 frames per second. But with my custom settings, which include textures on high, anisotropic filtering and anti-aliasing, my performance, it was around 32, the minimum it was 32 frames per second. I might have coughed like 1 or 2 frames below 30 frames per second if you ask me, but it was just that. It was like a minimal stutter or something that did happen, and this was a very demanding moment, mostly because of those reflections, because as soon as you finish this first chapter, you go to the second chapter, and instead of having these tons of reflections going on, what really happens is you get like a sunny environment, which performs pretty much like Yakuza 3, which means that it does perform better. If you go to the median settings, you can expect the game to drop tons of times below 30 frames per second, which for many people this might not be an issue, but since this game doesn't support frame skipping, the game will just start to run at a slower speed. It's not lagging or running slow just like in any other games. It just starts to run in slow motion, like you are reproducing a movie at half of speed. So it is kind of weird. I did show to you what that means in Yakuza 3 video, so in case you want to check it out, just check the Yakuza 3 video, which explains what happens when you don't match the target frame rate that you choose. So that's why I do recommend you to stick up with the 30 frames per second lock. So performance, it is pretty good as expected. Again, it is slightly more demanding than Yakuza 3, but I do think that the visuals got a slight improvement, especially on effects. Keep in mind that this is the remastered, so it includes much more visuals than the ones that were present in the PS3 when the game was initially released. So let's talk now a little bit about Yakuza 4, shall we? So I don't have too much to say. I just played a little bit of Yakuza 3 and played a little bit of Yakuza 4, and I just needed to read a little bit around the internet, and the too long didn't read thing is that this is essentially more of the same. Alright, it's just like Yakuza 3 with some revamps into the game, so combat now feels more smoother and less clunky. It's still, there are a lot of attacks that are just pretty much the same thing and same animations as Yakuza 3, but it feels more responsive, more smoother, less clunky. So it's an improvement, you see, over Yakuza 3, and it's also a different story, which is a good thing. And also for the first time, I think, on Yakuza series, Yakuza 4 introduces different playable characters. So you just started with this guy, and then later into the game you get access to your main character from Yakuza 3. So and there are some switches according to some reviews that I've been seeing, that the characters just switch back and forth. So it's a different story overall, and a small improvement over Yakuza 3. And that's expected, since Yakuza 3 initially it was released in 2009, and Yakuza 4 was released 1 year later in 2010. So they just add 1 year to improve, and obviously they didn't really improve that much compared to Yakuza 3, but still the improvements were nicely enough, and the new story, it is fine. So if you wanted to add more than Yakuza 3 to play, you can now go with Yakuza 4. So I will say the same thing as I said before from Yakuza 3, which is this game costs 20 euros on Steam, which is exactly the same price as Yakuza 3 and the same price as Yakuza 5. Although if you buy all the bundles together, I mean the Yakuza Remastered collection, which includes Yakuza 3, 4 and 5, at the time of this video it should cost you about 40 euros. So it's like pay for 2 games and take the free games. That's about it. Alright, so I think it's a nice deal if you want to complete all the Yakuzas. And if you think that 20 euros it is expensive and you are not really sure if you will like Yakuza, you can also try Xbox Game Pass, which costs 10 euros per month. But if you never tried Xbox Game Pass, you just pay 1 euro and you get access to a ton world of games, and the Yakuza Remastered collection is there. So you can try the game, and if you like, you can also complete the other games and continue to be subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, or just buy the games at another place, Steam or any other store that you want. So guys, I think that's all that I want to talk about Yakuza 4 Remastered. Hope you keep enjoying the rest of the gameplay, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
なんだお前。
ああ、こんな高い酒飲んじゃって。こんなのこの店じゃ市場価格の4倍は取られるぜ。
誰だお前。ボーイって感じじゃね
えな。ああ、うめえ。こんないい酒浴びるように飲むなんて本当の酒飲みのすることじゃねえよ
な。何しかとしてんだよ。俺らんこと舐めてんのか？
ん？
どこの誰だって聞いてんだよ。こら！てめえ何もんねこ
れ。よかったぜ、相手が俺で。これがヤーさん相手だったら戦争もんだよ。
なんだよこれ。話と違うじゃねえか。
え？話だと？
秋山さん、何やってんすか？
お前一人か？
え？あ、はい。兄貴はまだ時間がかかるみたいなんで。
そうか。
何てめえらごちゃごちゃ喋ってんだ。そうか、分かったぞ。俺らをはめて戦争を始める気だな。
さっきから何言ってんだあんた。
うるせえ！こうなりゃこっちも焼けよ。お前らが誰だろうと知ったこっちゃねえ。全員ぶっ殺してやるぜ。
てめえ人んちの島で暴れといて何言ってんだこれ。
来んなお前は。
え？
これは俺の喧嘩だ。この店で起こったことは全部俺とこいつらだけの問題だ。上野とか金村は関係ねえ。
秋山さん
やっぱりか。俺らの素性もバレバレってことか。
俺はこの町でスカイファイナンスって店やってる金貸しだ。この喧嘩俺が勝手にやってるだけのこと。あんたたちがムカついてから絡んだだけだ。組織がどうこうは関係ね
え。てめえなめた口聞きやがって。
いいね。気合入ってきたみたいじゃないか。久々に本気の喧嘩が楽しめそうだ。
ムカつく野郎でいいだろう。その分かりやすい挑発乗ってやるぜ。
こっちはいつでもいいぜ。
行くぞこんなじゃ。
行くぞ。
申し訳ありません。もしもし。ええ、そうですね。じゃあな。もしも
早くそれだ。
ん？
でも前で
だけ
な
あじゅ
え
上野。新井さん。
秋山さん、 あんたがくれようとしていたチャンス、どうやら俺はもらい損ねたようだ。それじゃ。
あれさん、
ああ、頭を一撃、余分な発砲は一切なし。こりゃ殺す気満々で撃ってるね。逃げなくていいんですか？
え？
犯人はさっき走ってった男ですよね。このままだとあなたが警察に捕まることになると思うんですが。
あんた
仇の方ですよね、あなた。
ああ、そうだな。
警察ってのは嫌なやつが多いとこです。捕まったら無理やり自白させられてしまうかもしれませんよ。
花ちゃん、
あ、ちょっと手遅れでしたね。
お前か。動くな。動くな。
俺？
動くなと言ってるだろう。
いや、おい、違うって。いや、俺じゃないんだって。無駄な抵抗はやめろ。
杉内さんの尋問は半端ないと思いますんで、気合い入れて頑張ってください。それじゃ。
暴れるなお前は。動くな。
杉内ってあの？おい、ちょっと待てよ、あんた。いや、だから違うんだって。さっきのとこに聞いてよ。ねえ、社長。花ちゃん。